Your mother's dead, Olivia. It's time you accepted that this house belongs to us now. Those words came out of my stepmother Diane's mouth on a Wednesday afternoon in April, and I swear to God, I felt something inside me shatter and then immediately harden into steel. I called to ask if I could come by on the weekend to plant flowers in Mom's garden, something I'd done every spring since she died. It was our tradition. Petunias and impatiens around the mailbox, just like she'd always done. Actually, that won't work, Diane continued, her voice sugary and cruel at the same time. We're listing the property next week. The realtor needs clear access for photos and showings. I stood in the middle of my apartment kitchen, phone pressed so hard against my ear it hurt. You're what? Selling the house. Your father and I have found a lovely condo in Scottsdale. Much more our style. Less maintenance. Better investment. The house at 2847 Elmwood Drive wasn't just a house. It was where my mother, Catherine, had baked birthday cakes at 2 a.m. because she worked double shifts but never missed a celebration. Where she taught me to ride a bike in the driveway, running alongside me until her lungs couldn't take it anymore. She was already sick by then. We just didn't know it yet. Where she died, in the bedroom upstairs, holding my hand and my father's, asking us to take care of each other. That was 7 years ago. I was 29. Dad remarried Diane exactly 14 months later. Dad agreed to this. Of course he did. We made this decision together. Really, Olivia, you're being dramatic. You haven't lived here since college. My hands were shaking. When were you going to tell me? I'm telling you now. Look, we've set aside some of your mother's things in the basement. You can come by Friday evening, let's say 7 o'clock, and take whatever you want. But be reasonable. We can't have you carting off furniture. Friday evening? That's 2 days from now. Yes, and the photographer comes Monday, so Friday is really the only option. I'm sure you understand. I didn't understand. I didn't understand how my father, the man who'd sobbed at my mother's funeral, who'd promised her he'd keep her memory alive, could let this woman sell the only physical connection we had left to her. Does Dad want to talk to me? He's golfing. I'll let him know you called. She hung up before I could respond. I stood there for a long moment, staring at my reflection in the microwave door. I looked like my mother. Same dark hair, same green eyes, same stubborn jawline. She'd been 48 when she died. Cervical cancer that spread faster than anyone expected. 3 months from diagnosis to gone. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Diane said she told you about the house. Change is hard, honey, but it's time. Hope you understand. Love you. Hope I understand. Love you. Not let's talk about this. Not I know this is difficult. Just a text message with a heart emoji, like he was confirming dinner plans. I called my brother immediately. Marcus, did you know about the house? What about it? His voice was distracted. He lived in Seattle now, worked in tech, visited maybe once a year. They're selling it. Diane just told me. They're listing it next week. Silence. Then, shit. Did you know? Dad mentioned something about downsizing last month. I didn't think he was serious. I thought Diane was just talking. She's not just talking. The realtor comes Monday. Liv, I'm sorry, but what can we do? It's their house now. Legally, it's Dad's decision. Their house. Legally. Those words felt like acid. Every memory of Mom is in that house, Marcus. I know. I know it sucks. But maybe it's time to let go. Mom's gone. The house is just a building. I hung up on him. Mom's gone. The house is just a building. Your mother's dead. Time to move on. Everyone seemed very comfortable telling me how to grieve, what to release, when to accept things. But here's what they didn't know. I wasn't good at letting go. And I definitely wasn't good at letting someone like Diane win. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Friday evening, 2 days to sort through my mother's entire life. 2 days to decide which pieces of her I could fit into my one-bedroom apartment. At 3 a.m, I pulled out my laptop and started researching. My mother had been a legal secretary for 30 years. She'd been meticulous about documentation, about protecting what mattered. After she died, Dad had me sign some papers, estate stuff, he said. Diane had been there, hovering, organizing everything into folders. I'd been too grief-stricken to pay attention. But now I needed to know exactly what I'd signed. Exactly what my mother had left behind. Exactly what legal ground I was standing on. Because if Diane thought she could erase my mother's memory and sell her life for profit, she was about to learn something important about the daughter Catherine raised. I didn't quit. I didn't back down. And I sure as hell didn't let bullies win. Friday evening came too fast. I pulled up to 2847 Elmwood at 6:45, deliberately early, and sat in my car for a moment just looking at the house. Two-story colonial. Forest green shutters that Mom had painted herself one summer. The porch where we'd watch thunderstorms. The window to my old bedroom, where she'd sit with me during bad dreams. Diane's silver Lexus sat in the driveway like a threat. I grabbed the empty boxes from my trunk and walked to the door. Before I could knock, Diane opened it. She was wearing white linen pants and a coral blouse, pearl earrings that definitely hadn't belonged to my mother. Olivia. Right on time. She didn't move to hug me. We'd never been that kind of family, her and me. Where's Dad? Book club night. He thought it might be easier if it was just us. Less emotional, you know. Of course. Dad had been avoiding difficult conversations since the day of Mom's funeral. I stepped inside and immediately felt wrong. The entryway was different. Mom's antique hall table, the one she'd refinished when she was pregnant with me, was gone. In its place was a modern glass console that looked like it belonged in a hotel lobby. Where's Mom's table? Oh, that old thing. It was falling apart. We donated it months ago. Diane gestured toward the basement stairs. Everything we saved is down there. I'm afraid there isn't as much as you might expect. Your mother was quite the pack rat, and we really needed to clear space. Pack rat. My mother, who'd kept every birthday card, every school project, every photo, because she said memories were all that lasted. I headed downstairs before I said something I couldn't take back. The basement was cold and smelled like mildew. In the corner sat 3 cardboard boxes and 2 small plastic bins. That was it. 7 years of my mother's life, reduced to 5 containers. I opened the first box with shaking hands. Photo albums. Thank God. I pulled one out and flipped through pages of my childhood. Mom and me at the zoo. Mom and Dad on their wedding day. Marcus as a baby. Our family before cancer, before Diane, before everything fell apart. The second box held Mom's jewelry, costume stuff mostly, nothing valuable. Her college yearbooks. A quilt her grandmother had made. Recipe cards in her handwriting, stained with flour and love. The third box was full of her clothes. Not nice clothes. Threadbare t-shirts, old cardigans, a nightgown she'd worn during her final weeks. The plastic bins held random items. Christmas ornaments we'd made as kids. Mom's coffee mugs. A set of candles she'd never burned. This was it. This was what Diane thought was worth saving from a woman who'd lived 48 years. I carried everything upstairs, making multiple trips. Diane watched from the kitchen, sipping white wine. Find everything you need? Where's the rest? The rest. Mom's desk. Her books. The paintings she collected. Her china. The hope chest from her grandmother. Diane set down her wine glass. Olivia, we couldn't keep everything. We donated most of it to charity. The furniture is being sold with the house. It's all part of the staging. You donated my mother's belongings. She's been gone 7 years. Your father and I needed to make this house ours. You can understand that. Surely. I couldn't speak. If I spoke, I would scream. Oh, and there's this. Diane pulled a manila envelope from the counter. Some old legal papers we found in your mother's desk before we got rid of it. Probably nothing important, but I thought you might want them. I took the envelope and left without another word. At home, I laid everything out in my living room. 5 containers. This was my inheritance. This was what remained of Catherine and Morrison, beloved mother, wife, daughter, friend. I cried for an hour. Deep, ugly sobs that came from somewhere primal. Then I opened the manila envelope. Inside were documents. Estate planning papers from 15 years ago. Mom's will, which I'd never actually seen, I realized. Some correspondence with an attorney. And at the bottom, a copy of a property deed. I read it once. Then again. Then a third time to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. The house at 2847 Elmwood Drive wasn't titled solely in my father's name. It was held in a joint living trust, the Morrison Family Trust. My mother had set it up in 2008, and according to the trust documents, She'd established specific terms. Dad had lifetime rights to live in the property, but upon his death or decision to sell, the property would transfer to me and Marcus as equal beneficiaries. There was more. Any sale of the property required notification of beneficiaries and right of first refusal, meaning Marcus and I legally had the first opportunity to purchase the house before it could be sold to anyone else. Diane didn't know. She couldn't know, or she wouldn't be listing the property next week. And my father either didn't know, or he'd forgotten, or, and this made me sickest, Diane had convinced him it didn't matter. I grabbed my phone and called the attorney whose name was on the documents. Miller and Associates. The call went to voicemail. It was 8 p.m. on a Friday, but I left a message asking for an urgent callback. Then I opened my banking app and looked at my balance. I'd been saving for a house of my own. 5 years of careful budgeting, of skipping vacations, and driving my old Honda into the ground. I had $78,000 in savings. Not enough to buy the house. Not even close. The property was worth at least $600,000, probably more. But I had something else. Something I'd almost forgotten about. When my maternal grandmother died 4 years ago, she'd left me and Marcus a trust fund each. Mine had specific terms. I couldn't access it until I turned 35, or unless I was purchasing a primary residence. I turned 35 last October. I pulled up the trust documents on my laptop. My grandmother's attorney had emailed them to me years ago. The account balance had been growing with investments for nearly 3 decades. Current value, $1.2 million. I stared at that number for a long time. Then I started making a plan. The attorney, Patricia Miller, called me back Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Ms. Morrison, I got your message. You mentioned the Morrison Family Trust. Yes. My mother, Catherine Morrison, set it up in 2008. I found the documents last night. My stepmother is trying to sell the house, and I don't think she knows about the trust terms. Silence on the other end. Then, do you have your copy of the trust agreement in front of you? Yes. Turn to page 7, section 4B. I flipped pages. Found it. Read it out loud. In the event the surviving spouse chooses to sell the marital property at 2847 Elmwood Drive, all beneficiaries must be notified in writing no less than 30 days prior to listing, and beneficiaries shall have right of first refusal to purchase said property at fair market value. That's correct, Patricia said. Were you notified in writing? I got a phone call 3 days ago. That's it. Then the sale can't proceed, at least not legally. If they list it without proper notification, you have grounds to block the sale entirely. My heart was pounding. What if I don't want to block it? What if I want to buy it? Then you'd need to make an offer at fair market value. We'd need to get the property appraised. Then you'd have 30 days to secure financing and close. How fast can we move on this? How serious are you? Completely serious. I have access to funds. I can do this. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Olivia, can I call you Olivia? I actually knew your mother. She came to us specifically to set up this trust. She was very concerned about protecting her children's inheritance. She never told me. She wouldn't have. The trust was designed to operate in the background. But she made sure that if anything happened to her, you and your brother would have rights to the family home. She said it was important, that the house held your memories. I had to put the phone down for a second to compose myself. Can we move quickly? They're planning to list it Monday. I'll make some calls. Have you told your father about the trust? Not yet. You'll need to. Legally, he needs to know you're exercising your right of first refusal. And Olivia, be prepared for resistance. If there's a new spouse involved who wasn't aware of these terms, things can get complicated. Complicated was an understatement. I called Marcus next. Did you know Mom set up a trust for the house? What? No. What are you talking about? I explained everything. The documents. The terms. The right of first refusal. So Diane can't just sell it, Marcus said slowly. Mom made sure of that. She protected us, even after she was gone. Shit. Does Dad know? I don't think so. I'm going to tell him today. Marcus, I want to buy the house. I have the money, but the trust lists both of us as beneficiaries. I need to know you're okay with this. You want to live there? I want to keep it in the family. I want to preserve what Mom built. You're in Seattle. You have your life. But this matters to me. Then do it. You have my support. I'll sign whatever you need me to sign. You sure? Liv, you're the one who's been there. Who's kept Mom's traditions alive. Who visits her grave every month. The house should be yours. Just promise me I can visit. Always. After I hung up, I called my father. Hey, sweetheart, he answered, sounding tired. Diane said you came by yesterday. Dad, we need to talk. In person. It's important. Is everything okay? Can you meet me for coffee? Without Diane. Just you and me. A pause. She's out shopping. I can meet you in 20 minutes. We met at a diner near his house. Our house, I kept reminding myself. Dad looked older than I remembered. His hair had gone completely gray. He'd lost weight, but not in a healthy way. What's this about, honey? I slid the trust documents across the table. Did you know Mom set up a trust for the house? His face went pale as he read. She mentioned something about estate planning years ago. But after she died, Diane handled most of the paperwork. She said everything was straightforward. It wasn't straightforward, Dad. Mom made sure Marcus and I would inherit the house. You can live there your whole life, but you can't sell it without giving us the option to buy it first. I don't understand. Diane has been pushing you to sell without knowing about the trust. Legally, you can't list that house on Monday. Not without notifying Marcus and me 30 days in advance. Not without giving us first right to purchase. Dad put his head in his hands. Oh God, Catherine did that. She really did that. She wanted to protect us. To protect her legacy. Diane's going to be furious. Dad, there's more I need to tell you. I pulled out another stack of papers. Credit card statements I'd found in one of those basement boxes, statements from years of spending. Do you know about these? He looked through them with growing confusion. These are charges from my credit cards. But I didn't. Diane handles most of our finances. She said it was easier. The statements showed a pattern. Designer clothing stores. Luxury vacations. A jewelry purchase for $18,000. Spa treatments. High-end restaurants. All on my father's credit cards. All over the past 6 years. Dad, did you take a home equity loan out on the house? Diane said we needed it for the roof and HVAC. The roof is fine. I can see it from the driveway. And Mom replaced the HVAC the year before she died. His hands were shaking now. How much did we borrow? According to the county records, $175,000. The color drained from his face completely. Where did it go, Dad? I don't. Diane said we needed it for improvements. For investments. What improvements? What investments? He couldn't answer. I reached across and took his hand. Dad, I think Diane has been using you. Using Mom's death and your grief to take control of your finances. And now she wants to sell the house because she's run out of money to spend. No, she wouldn't. Look at the statements. Look at the numbers. We sat in that booth for 2 hours while I walked him through everything. The spending. The debt. The way Diane had isolated him from me and Marcus. The way she'd erased every trace of my mother from the house. By the end, my father was crying. Your mother tried to warn me, he whispered. Before she died, she said, don't forget who you are, Thomas. Don't let anyone make you forget what we built. I thought she was just worried. I didn't understand. She understood, Dad. That's why she protected us. Why she set up the trust. What do I do now? You let me buy the house. I have the money. I can close in 30 days. And then you decide what you want to do about Diane. He looked at me with something like hope. You'd really do that? Buy the house. It's not just a house, Dad. It's Mom. It's us. It's everything that matters. Can I stay there? I know it would be your house, but... Dad, you're staying there. Both of us are. We're going home. We went back to the house together that afternoon. Diane's Lexus was in the driveway. She was back from shopping. Ready for this? I asked my father. He nodded, but he looked terrified. Inside, Diane was arranging flowers in the living room. Staging, probably. She looked up with surprise when she saw us together. Thomas, I thought you were meeting Olivia alone. Change of plans, Dad said. His voice was stronger than I'd heard it in years. I set the trust documents on the coffee table, my mother's coffee table that Diane had tried to sell. We need to talk about the house sale. Diane's eyes narrowed. What about it? It's not legal. You can't sell the house without notifying the trust beneficiaries and giving them right of first refusal. What trust? The Morrison Family Trust. Mom set it up in 2008. The house isn't solely in Dad's name. It's protected. Diane's face went through several emotions rapidly. Confusion, realization, anger. That's ridiculous. Thomas, tell her this is ridiculous. But Dad was looking at the credit card statements I'd laid out next to the trust documents. Diane, did you spend $18,000 at Cartier? What? I don't. Let me see those. They're from my credit card. The one you said you'd use for household expenses. I don't have to justify my purchases to you. We're married. What's yours is mine. What about the home equity loan? I asked quietly. $175,000. Where did that money go? Diane's face flushed red. That's none of your business. It's Dad's business. And since you're trying to sell his house, the house my mother protected in a trust, I'd say it's absolutely my business. Thomas, are you going to let her speak to me like this? Your own wife. My father stood up. He seemed taller somehow. Show me the bank statements, Diane. Show me where the equity money went. I don't have to show you anything. Actually, you do. Because I'm starting to think Olivia's right. I think you've been using me. Using my grief. Using my guilt over Catherine. Diane's mask slipped completely. Your precious Catherine is dead? She's been dead for 7 years. How long was I supposed to live in her shadow? How long was I supposed to pretend this was her house and not mine? Forever, Dad said simply. Because it was never yours. The argument escalated. Diane screamed that she'd given up her life for him. Dad countered that she'd spent his life savings. I stood quietly, letting them fight, letting 7 years of resentment and truth finally surface. Finally, Diane grabbed her purse. Fine. You want this house so badly? You can have it. I'm leaving. Good, Dad said. You have until tomorrow night to get your things out. You can't kick me out. I live here. Actually, I said calmly, you don't. Not anymore. I'm purchasing this property as of today. I'm exercising my right of first refusal as beneficiary of the Morrison Family Trust. And I'm declining to extend you any residency rights. Diane stared at me with pure hatred. This is illegal. Call a lawyer. They'll tell you the same thing. She looked at my father one last time. You're really going to let her do this? Olivia is saving me, Diane. From you. And from myself. Diane stormed out. We heard her Lexus peel out of the driveway minutes later. Dad sank onto the couch and put his head in his hands. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm sorry I let it get this bad. I sat next to him. We're going to fix it. Together. I don't deserve your forgiveness. You deserve another chance. That's what Mom would say. Over the next 3 days, I worked with Patricia Miller to expedite the sale. We got the house appraised, $620,000. I made a formal offer to my father at that amount. He accepted immediately. Diane returned with a moving truck and 2 men who packed her belongings in silence. She didn't speak to either of us. Didn't even look at us. On her way out, she stopped in the doorway. You think you've won something, she said to me. But you're just a bitter daughter living in the past. This house is going to become your prison. Better than it being your profit, I replied. She left. The house felt instantly lighter. Dad and I stood in the empty living room. Empty of Diane's things, anyway. Now what? He asked. Now we bring Mom back. The closing happened on a Tuesday morning, exactly 28 days after I'd found the trust documents. Patricia Miller handled everything flawlessly. I signed my name 37 times. Electronic transfers moved $620,000 from my grandmother's trust fund to the title company. The house at 2847 Elmwood Drive officially became mine. My father signed documents dissolving his interest in the property and simultaneously transferring lifetime residency rights. We'd structured it so he could live there until he died, with no rent, no strings. His name would come off the deed, but his home would remain his. When it was done, Patricia smiled at both of us. Your mother would be proud. Dad's eyes filled with tears. Catherine always was the smart one. We drove home together. I could finally call it home again, and sat in the car for a moment, just looking at the house. Ready to reclaim this place? I asked. More than ready. We spent the next week purging every trace of Diane from the house. Her modern furniture went to consignment shops. Her decorative accessories went to Goodwill. Karma, I thought. Her paint colors got covered with colors Mom had chosen. I found Mom's antique hall table at a local consignment shop. Cost me $800 to buy back my own mother's furniture, but it was worth it. We restored it to its place in the entryway. The photo albums came out of boxes and onto shelves. Mom's books, which I'd been secretly buying back from the library sale, filled the bookcases again. Her paintings, I tracked down 3 of them through the Goodwill donation records and bought them back, returned to their rightful walls. In the garden, Dad and I replanted everything Diane had let die. Mom's rose bushes, her herb garden, the perennial border she'd spent 10 years cultivating. I killed these, Dad said, on his knees in the dirt. When Catherine was alive, I helped her. After she died, I just let them go. We're bringing them back now. That's what matters. We found Mom's old gardening journal in one of the basement boxes. Every plant was documented, every bloom date recorded, every pest problem solved. She'd left us a blueprint for restoration. One afternoon, while we were repainting the living room, Dad's phone rang. Diane. He put it on speaker. Thomas, we need to talk about the divorce. You want a divorce? Fine. I'll have my attorney draw up papers. I want my fair share. Half of everything. That's California law. Dad looked at me. I nodded. Half of what, Diane? Half of the debt you created. Half of the empty bank accounts. The house is gone, it was sold. Most of the sale proceeds went to paying off the home equity loan you took out. What's left is barely enough to cover retirement. I want alimony. I gave up years of my life for you. You gave up 3 years. And you spent about $400,000 of my money during that time. My attorney will be very interested in that math. You bastard. No, Diane. I'm just done being your ATM. He hung up. We went back to painting. The divorce took 8 months to finalize. Diane tried every angle, claiming Dad had hidden assets, that the house sale was fraudulent, that I'd manipulated him. But the evidence was overwhelming. The credit card statements, the home equity loan, the trust documents showing the house was never hers to sell. Patricia Miller brought in a forensic accountant who documented every penny Diane had spent. In the end, the judge granted Dad a divorce with no alimony. Diane was responsible for half the credit card debt, roughly $40,000. She walked away with her Lexus and the designer clothes on her back. Her attorney advised her to take the deal before it got worse. She signed the papers without looking at either of us. Meanwhile, Dad and I turned 2847 Elmwood Drive back into a home. We hosted Thanksgiving that year, the first family gathering in the house since Mom died. Marcus flew in from Seattle with his girlfriend. My aunt and uncle came. My cousin Emma brought her kids. This feels right, Marcus said, looking around the restored living room. Like Mom's here again. She is, I said. She never left. We found more of Mom's things as we cleaned and renovated. A diary from her 20s. Love letters between her and Dad from their early years. A recipe box with notes in the margins. Thomas loves this one, and make double for Olivia. Each discovery felt like a gift. Like Mom was still taking care of us from wherever she was. Dad started therapy. He needed to process not just Mom's death, but his own complicity in letting Diane erase her. He needed to understand how grief had made him vulnerable, how loneliness had made him desperate. I betrayed your mother's memory, he told me one night. I let someone who didn't love her, who didn't respect her, take over her house. You were in pain. People in pain make mistakes. I should have been stronger. You're being strong now. That counts. We established new traditions. Sunday dinners at Mom's dining table. We'd found it at an estate sale, of all places, and bought it back. Coffee on the porch every morning. Working in the garden together on weekends. Dad even started dating again. A gentle woman named Patricia, not the attorney, different Patricia, who'd known Mom and spoke about her warmly, without jealousy. She understands this house comes with memories, Dad explained. She's not trying to replace Catherine. She's just keeping me company while I honor her. That was the difference. Patricia was a companion. Diane had been a replacement. And you can't replace someone like my mother. One Saturday in late spring, Dad and I were planting impatiens around the mailbox, Mom's tradition, when a car slowed down in front of the house. It was Diane. She sat there for a long moment, just staring. Then she drove away. Think she regrets it? Dad asked. I think she regrets not getting more money. He laughed. It was good to hear him laugh. The house transformed over the next year. Not into something new, but back into what it had been. What Mom had made it. I moved into my old bedroom permanently. Repainted it the same lavender Mom had helped me choose when I was 16. Hung the same curtains she'd sewn. Set up my desk under the window where I'd done homework while she cooked dinner downstairs. It felt like coming home after a long, painful journey. Dad took over the master bedroom again, the room he'd shared with Mom. He'd avoided it after she died, sleeping in the guest room instead. But now he returned to it, filling it with photos of Mom, keeping her favorite books on the nightstand. She'd want me to remember her here, he explained. Not hide from her. We learned things about Diane through the grapevine. She'd moved into a small apartment in the valley. She was working retail again, the same job she'd had before meeting Dad. Her new husband, the one she'd married quickly after the divorce, had turned out to have financial problems of his own. Karma, Marcus said during one of his visits. She married another target. I didn't take pleasure in her struggles. Not really. I just felt grateful we'd escaped before she destroyed everything. Through my cousin Emma, who was friends with one of Diane's former coworkers, we heard she was telling people that I'd stolen her house. That I'd manipulated my father. That she was a victim of a cruel stepdaughter who'd never accepted her. Let her talk. Anyone who mattered knew the truth. Dad reconnected with old friends, people he'd drifted from during his marriage to Diane. They came over for poker nights, for backyard barbecues, for football Sundays. The house filled with laughter again. This is what it used to be like, one of Dad's oldest friends, Robert, said to me at a 4th of July party. Before, when your mom was alive, this house was always full of people and life. That's what I wanted to restore. You did more than restore it, Olivia. You saved your dad. We were all worried about him with Diane. He wasn't himself. He's himself again now. I watched Dad across the yard, grilling burgers and laughing at someone's joke. He looked younger, lighter, free. The garden flourished. Mom's roses produced blooms that drew neighbors to our fence, asking what our secret was. Love, I'd tell them. That's the secret. Marcus visited 3 times that year, instead of his usual once. His girlfriend Amy fell in love with the house, with the stories, with the sense of family. I never had this growing up, she told me during their Christmas visit. This sense of continuity, of honoring the past while living in the present. Mom built that. We're just maintaining it. On the anniversary of Mom's death, Dad and I visited her grave in the morning. Then we came home and cooked her favorite meal, lasagna from scratch, garlic bread, Caesar salad. We set a place for her at the table. Think she knows? Dad asked. What we did. How we saved her house. I think she always knew. That's why she set up the trust. She knew we'd figure it out. We raised our glasses. To Catherine, Dad said. The smartest woman I ever knew. To Mom, I added, who protected us even after she was gone. We ate in comfortable silence, surrounded by her things, in her house, carrying on her legacy. Later that evening, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. This is Diane. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted you to know I'm sorry. Not for everything, but for what I said about your mother. She deserved better than that. And so did you. I stared at the message for a long time. Dad looked over my shoulder. You going to respond? I don't know. Does she deserve a response? Maybe she's changed. Maybe she's learned something. I thought about it. Then I typed, thank you for saying that. I hope you find peace. I didn't add I forgive you because I wasn't sure I did, but I could acknowledge her apology. That felt like enough. You're more gracious than I would be, Dad said. Mom taught me that. Being angry takes more energy than being free. That night, I sat in the window seat in my bedroom, the same spot where Mom used to read to me, and looked out over the garden. The moon was full, casting silver light over the roses, the herbs, the perennials we brought back to life. This house had been worth fighting for, not because of its market value or its square footage or its riverfront location. Because it held us, all of us, the living and the dead, the memories and the moments still being made. Diane had tried to turn it into a commodity, a transaction, a stepping stone to her next comfortable life. But some things aren't for sale. Some things you protect, even when it costs you. Especially when it costs you. It's been 2.5 years since I bought back my childhood home. Dad is thriving. He's been seeing Patricia for over a year now, and she's become a genuine friend to both of us. She comes over for dinner once a week, helps in the garden, tells stories about her own late husband with affection instead of resentment. She understands that this house has a history, and she respects it. "I'm not trying to be Catherine," she told me once. "I'm just trying to be someone who makes Thomas happy. There's a difference." And there is. That's the difference. I've started dating too. A teacher named Ben, who came to one of our backyard barbecues and asked if he could see me again outside of my father's grill smoke. We take things slowly. He's met the house before he's met most of my friends, and that tells you everything about my priorities. "Your mom would have liked him," Dad said after Ben's third visit. "You think so? He's kind. He's patient. He laughs at your jokes, even when they're not funny. Catherine would have approved. Marcus got engaged to Amy. They're planning a wedding in the garden next spring. Mom's roses will be in bloom. It feels perfect. Last I heard about Diane, she and her second husband had split up. She's living with a sister somewhere in Nevada, working part-time, struggling with money. I heard through Emma that she tried to contact Dad, asking for a loan. He declined, gently but firmly. "I hope she's okay," he said when he told me about it. "But I can't save her. I can barely save myself." "You're doing more than saving yourself, Dad. You're living. The house is filled with life now. We host Marcus when he visits. We have neighborhood barbecues. We throw birthday parties for my cousin Emma's kids. We've become the place where family gathers, where memories are made, where the past and present coexist peacefully. I found Mom's last journal entry a few months ago, tucked into a cookbook I'd rescued from the Goodwill pile. It was dated 3 days before she died. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I had to leave you. But listen to me. The house isn't just wood and nails. It's every moment we live there. Every laugh, every tear, every ordinary Tuesday morning. Don't let anyone take that from you. Don't let anyone make you believe that moving on means forgetting. You can honor the past and still build a future. Protect what matters. Fight for what you love. And know that I'm always with you, in every room, every corner, every memory. Love, Mom. I framed those words and hung them in the kitchen, right above where she used to stand while cooking dinner. Diane said this house would become my prison. She was wrong about that, like she was wrong about so many things. This house isn't a prison. It's a sanctuary. It's proof that love doesn't die when people do. That memory is stronger than erasure. That some battles are worth fighting, even when everyone tells you to let go. My mother protected us with a trust fund and legal documents because she knew what mattered. She knew that houses become homes through love, through attention, through the daily choice to show up and care. Diane tried to sell that, tried to turn decades of devotion into a real estate transaction. But you can't sell what was never yours. You can't price what's priceless. The house at 2847 Elmwood Drive is worth more than $620,000. It's worth more than any number on any appraisal. It's worth a mother's love, a family's history, a daughter's determination to protect what matters most. And that, it turns out, is worth everything.